Good Tuesday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Conversation Daily News. Glad you all could be with us. Of course, you have your news headlines coming up on this Tuesday. Have a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and in today's news you can use. Yesterday, had a great conversation with Sherry Torkas, who's an integrative pharmacist. She discussed what heartburn is and how you can treat it. You don't want to miss that. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Tuesday headlines. In national news, jury finds Jonathan Majors guilty of assault and harassment of ex-girlfriend. Jonathan Majors was found guilty on Monday of 2 of the 4 counts brought against him. The 9-person jury found the actor guilty of misdemeanor assault and harassment in connection with a March 25th incident that erupted, according to Manhattan prosecutors, between Majors and his ex-girlfriend. Following the verdict, the judge ordered a new order of protection and set the sentencing date for February the 6th. In her testimony, the ex-girlfriend said she spotted a text on the actor's phone from another woman, after which she grabbed his phone and then he physically assaulted her, she claimed. Majors has maintained his innocence via his attorney. NBC News has reached out to his attorney and is waiting on comment. During the 2-week trial, the ex-girlfriend took the stand for several days. Majors did not testify. The ex-girlfriend testified that throughout the relationship, she was scared of Majors and also feared he would hurt himself if she left him. In their opening statement, prosecutors said Majors slapped his ex-girlfriend in the face and fractured the middle finger on one of her hands after she took his phone. Street surveillance footage from the night shows the ex-girlfriend getting out of the SUV and Majors picking her up and putting her back into the car. Prosecutors claim the actor threw her back inside the vehicle like a football. Majors, 34, has denied striking his ex-girlfriend, and his lawyers contend he was actually the victim and suffered scratches. Majors' attorney said the ex-girlfriend went out dancing with strangers after the alleged abusive encounter, but the ex-girlfriend claimed she was seeking comfort by those who came to her aid on a street corner following the assault. The star of Creed 3 and the critically acclaimed 2019 independent film, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, Majors' rapid rise to superstardom was stalled in March after the allegations emerged. The verdict raises questions about Majors' future in the Marvel movie series. The studio had planned to build the next phase of the franchise around Majors' villainous character, Kang the Conqueror, and he was expected to appear in 2026's Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. Majors has already played the character on the Marvel television series Loki and the film Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was released in theaters earlier this year. In more national news, YouTube mom who gave parenting advice, Ruby Frank, pleads guilty in child abuse case. A Utah mother of 6 who gave parenting advice on YouTube pleaded guilty Monday to child abuse charges and will go to prison for trying to convince her 2 youngest children they were evil, possessed, and needed to be punished to repent. Ruby Frank stood shackled in gray and white gel clothing as she closed her eyes and took a deep breath before pleading guilty to each of her first 3 charges. On the 4th, she fought back some emotion before saying, "With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty." The judge scheduled sentencing for February the 20th after accepting the plea agreement, which described new details of the abuse of the children, including the claims that they were possessed. Under the plea agreement, Frank agreed to serve a prison sentence, and the sentences will run consecutively. Sentencing would be up to the judge. In more national news, the late Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to serve on the Supreme Court, honored as a trailblazer. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court, was remembered Monday as a trailblazer who never lost sight of how the High Court's decisions affected all Americans. O'Connor, an Arizona native who was an unwavering voice of moderate conservatism for more than 2 decades, died December 1st at the age of 93. Mourners at the court on Monday, including Vice President Kamala Harris, the first woman to serve in her role, and her husband. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor spoke at the private ceremony that included the 9 justices and retired Justice Anthony Kennedy, as well as O'Connor's family and court colleagues. She would often say, "It was good to be the first, but I don't want to be the last," Sotomayor said of O'Connor's distinction as the first woman. She lived to see a record 4 women serving on the High Court. In entertainment news, that's a wrap. Bryant Gumbel and HBO's Real Sports aired their last episode after 29 years. For the last few years of its life, HBO's Real Sports taped its episodes on the same Manhattan block where CBS 60 Minutes resides. they shared a sensibility along with the neighborhood. But while 60 Minutes rolls along in its sixth decade, the monthly sports magazine, held by Brian Gumbel, is calling it quits in its 29th year. The final 90-minute episode premieres Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. And finally, in business news, Wall Street closes mixed after 7 straight weeks of gains. Stocks ended mixed on Wall Street as a 7-week winning streak cooled off. The S&P 500 added 0.5% on Monday. The Dow was a little changed, and the Nasdaq Composite rose 0.6%. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's time for a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Tuesday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Words I Choose to Live By. It will not always be easy, but still challenge yourself to find out what the experiences of life have to teach you. If you can learn the lessons, you will be more equipped for the next assignment. But let's get to it. Have an amazing Tuesday. We are part of my conversation coming up with Sherry Torkis in today's News You Can Use. Stay with us. You're listening to Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your News You Can Use. Sherry Torkis, integrative pharmacist, joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to discuss a topic that affects so many around the world, that being heartburn, is a bit of our conversation. Sherry, thank you again for the time. Really do appreciate it.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
This is an important topic, Sherry. I've had family members that have definitely dealt with heartburn, and when they talked to their doctor about it, the thing that really fascinated me was exactly what it has to do with. So what exactly causes heartburn, Sherry, and how common is it?
Yeah, so heartburn is incredibly common, and it's an uncomfortable burning feeling that you get in your chest that occurs when you have stomach acid that is traveling upward from the digestive area into the esophagus and throat. And it's that burning feeling, it's uncomfortable, sometimes it's worse at night or when you're laying down, and some people experience a bitter, acidic type taste in their mouth. And as you mentioned earlier, heartburn is very, very common. Almost everybody's going to have heartburn at some point in their lives. Definitely it becomes more common if you're carrying extra weight. Women during pregnancy experience heartburn. If you're taking medications like anti-inflammatory drugs, that can be a risk factor for getting heartburn. Also, if you have an imbalance in your gut bacteria, which impacts digestion, that can be a contributing factor. And there's triggers as well. For those that suffer with heartburn, you'll know that eating acidic or spicy food or carbonated beverages or sometimes alcohol or coffee, those can trigger or bring on heartburn. So it's incredibly common, and it's this suffering with these horrible symptoms that leads many people to look over the counter at these drugs like the PPIs, which have been incredibly commonly used over the past 20 years.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning into this edition of Conversation Daily News. But tomorrow, more news, message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and of course, the entertainment spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversation Daily News today. Let us go make today amazing. Take care.